Hello everyone. So we're gonna do the other side of the trees. So we're keeping the same and I'm taking my scruffy brush because I find that there's little hairs and I like what it does. So I'm gonna I think I'm going to take this one here. This one is even scruffier. I don't know if you can see all the little hairs. So I'm going to take that one. So again, we're going to go, I need a little bit of yellow. Not too much yellow because next time we're going to go with the army green and the white. So this, I want it a bit lighter than what we just did. That we did in part 1. Just so we can differentiate from the sides. Maybe not that light. I'll see when I touch it. I'll start with that tree. Okay, a bit lighter because it's the same as the other side. And I want to create dimension. So, oh yeah, there's not much of a difference. When it dries, it's going to be like the other one. So a little bit more yellow so that it becomes a lighter green, like a light olive green. Do it on both sides of my brush. I can use both sides. And look how it's loaded and how scruffy it is. Sometimes our old brushes, they have a purpose. So just touching, and I'm not going to the other end. I don't want to undo what I've done on this side. So you just go and we can scoop again, but my brush is so scruffy that, you know, don't have to do much on this here also. And you see I'm leaving some dark spots, which will give us dimension again. And I'm going to the edge. I'm just not, because we did a lot here, so I'm not doing as much on this side because I don't want to lose that. Okay, and keep going. And this tree also, because that tree is middle ground. So I can do that. So I'm not sure if we'll be able to complete in one video. So we'll just keep going. So I don't have to reload as much. Can turn my brush, it's fully loaded on that side. And that's how you create. There's areas that are darker, and you'll see it'll all come together when when we do add more. See, I'm scooping. This one here has a lot of dark, so I'm scooping. And it leaves a little bit of dark here, and that's okay for now. So I'm going to reload. I brought my camera a little bit closer this time because I found, yes, when I looked at the video yesterday that you didn't see very well what I was doing. So hopefully this time you're gonna see better. I'm in the process of finding out which kind of camera to buy instead of using my cell phone. I'm finding my cell phone very limiting. Okay, so now I need to take a bit more of my dark green and lighting it up. You might have to dry this so I can start the other step. A little bit lighter. So I'm not making, I didn't make a puddle of this just because I don't have like a ton of trees. A bit more yellow. Okay, that's better. And you see my trees, because I have a scruffy brush, it's not going right on the edge, which I kind of like. And sometimes I want it on the edge and other times I don't. This one's really loaded on this side. And I go down. It's just a matter of doing all the trees. And like these here will have details, maybe not as much as the bigger trees. And you see I'm not even going in the background trees. Because if I start putting all these details in the background tree, they'll be in front. They won't be in the back anymore. So you got to be careful if you want things to be in the background, that means they have less details. They can have like I'll put some white on it here and there, but it will not be detailed. Even the knots are going to be lighter. They won't be as black as the front ones. Okay, so another one here, and then we're gonna start going into the lighter. I'm gonna start lightening it up again. So I'm gonna flip this. So this is gonna be, I'm gonna dry this to be able to do this, so I can put my hand on. Okay, so now we're gonna take our green and white. So our green, and this time the white. I didn't wash my brush. So it's kind of like a grayish, greenish color. I'm gonna try that, see how that works for me. And it's same thing, like I'm not trying to hide what I've already done under, and if I'm not at the edge of the tree, that is okay. And we still scoop here. And because my brush is scruffy, it's making little marks of the little hairs that are all straggly are making little marks. So see, I'm not pressing as hard as I was before. So now you're starting to see a dimension in my tree. So we're gonna do the same here. And it's just little strokes, not very hard. You want it to show though. Oh, there's a lot of paint on this side. And I'm not, as you see, I'm not, sometimes I'm leaving a space, sometimes it's barely a space, and that's what's gonna make your tree have dimension. So it's kind of doing your shadow at the same time. So I'm gonna reload again, maybe make a bigger batch, this one. I like to mix as I go because then the trees are not the same. So so it's kind of nice. Okay, so I'm gonna go lightly because this is very loaded. So I'm gonna just go And you see, I'm not going to the edge. I'm leaving a space there. And I'm lightly pressing. And it's just lightly pressing. And scooping. Don't forget to scoop. See, it already changed. It's the tree is coming, it's coming to life. I'll reload again in the same mix that I had. Maybe you're going to find that your bigger trees are a bit overwhelming because they're bigger, they're wider. But just don't think of it as a tree. Think of it as just a form, and that you're just scooping on it. I'm going to reload again. And we're going to go lighter and lighter and lighter as we go. I'll see how many coats of lighter that I have to do on mine. And that's what gives us, like I was saying, that's what's going to give us the perspective, the dimension on our tree. This is very loaded, so I'm going to unload it on my palette a bit because it's way too much. It's going to make blobs. Okay, so I'm pressing very lightly again because I know I have lots of paint here. And I'm just and we just keep going and try to get a bit on the edge sometimes. I'm pressing a tad. I'm playing with touching less, touching more. That way some spots are light, some spots are darker, and it's just going to make us, it's going to get, look at this tree. I don't know if you can see it properly. Look already how it looks dimensional, just because of the way we've just put this layer here. So this tree, and that's how I did my aspens, because I want to see all the colors, and that's what gives this tree life. Okay, this one. And you just keep going. And you see it left a big spot here. That is perfect. Don't try to be perfect here. It's better not to be. I'm not even looking at what it looks like. I'm just looking at my brushwork. So that way I don't concentrate on the stroke itself. I'm looking at and I kind of look at my brush, and I'm looking, if my brush is here, I'm kind of looking here. So that way I don't concentrate on what the brush is doing. I start to look where I put it, and then I move on. And I'm not pressing as hard here. It's a little tree. Okay, so it's time to flip it again. I'm flipping it because it's much easier for me to do it. So now we're going lighter, even lighter than what we just did. So take your white. There's enough here to just keep going. Because the coats are light, it's already dry. It's here maybe that it's not. I'm just going to be careful. Yeah, it's not. So I'm just going to try, just put my little finger there. Okay. So I'm scooping a little bit, and you see that I'm not pressing very hard, very barely, because I don't want to hide this here. And I don't want to hide what I've done under this. So very lightly, that's where my scruffy brush comes in handy, is because it's making just these tiny little strokes. See, it's like it's touching, and on other places it's not. And that is what you want. And we can scoop a little bit here also. This will have lots of... This side was really loaded. So I'm trying to hide these spaces here in between on this side. So it kind of, they don't match. So again, it's giving you a perspective. And depends how much paint you have in your brush, how hard you're gonna press on the canvas. Okay. I went too far out here. There, fixed it. So I'm going to reload again, not making a new batch. I think I have enough here to go. And here I'm going to start in that space here so I can hide that line here. And I really don't want to hide everything. And right down to the top. As it dries a bit darker. So I'm just going to mix again some more of this gray. A little tad, whoops, maybe that was a tad too much. I'm just going to add okay, a very loaded. I'm going to unload a little bit here. Okay, let's see. Okay, so we're up to this tree. My brush is very loaded, so I'm going to go very, very light. See, I'm not going as far anymore. I want to keep these spots here and there. Even there's white here because I wasn't that well mixed on my brush. That's okay, because we're going to end up putting some white in there. I think it's time to reload. You see, I'm going fast. I'm not just staying here doing it. I'm just going. And same. as I'm coming down, I'm just going not as hard on my brush, not as far. I think I have enough paint for this little tree. No, actually my paint is all up on my brush. Okay. Barely touching. I want that little space in between here of the colors. Don't lose that, because that's what's gonna, when we flip it, you're gonna see that it's starting to have to look round and to have little spots that are darker than the others. Okay. Sometimes I'm scooping, sometimes I'm not. And I'm sure I have enough, because that one will take barely any paint. I still want some on it, but because it's so little that I didn't have quite enough on it. Okay, so let's flip that. Now I'm gonna dry up. So now we're gonna lighten it up even more now. I'm gonna have to make a bigger puddle here. Add some white. So I'm mixing it. I want to go lighter. Do you see? It's not white, it's kind of a grayish color, grayish, greenish. It's not gray, it has green in it. A little more white. Okay, so it's lighter, much lighter. Unload a little bit here. Okay. And now I won't be going right on the edge. Okay. So I'm going, you see, just kind of like in the middle or on the side, but not on the edge of the tree. And this time, you know, I'm kind of we won't have to flip the canvas, because I'm kind of working in the middle and I'm lightly pressing. And I'm gonna reload. So that way I'm not losing all of the details, all the colors that we just put in. And I'm not, do you see that some places I'm starting a little bit on the edge. I don't want it to be a line. Like this one's a little bit of a line, but it's still okay. So here again, it's a little tree, so very lightly, and I'm scooping here. Very lightly scooping, very lightly touching it. but I'm still doing something on it. Even if it's just little hairs, it's still something. It's still gonna show. And as I'm going, my color is getting lighter and lighter. So I'm trying not to follow what I just did, so when your brush is very loaded, it'll do big spots like that. It's okay. It's just another a dimension, I could say. So I'm doing it on purpose. I am not trying to hide that color here or that color there. It's giving me already my shadows, and yeah, that's what it's doing. So here, okay, again, make sure I'm not following the same design all the way down. Some places I will touch more, some places less. It's kind of hiding that stroke here in the middle. You don't see that anymore. So it's going to look maybe less as a painting than, it'll look more like your tree. If that makes any sense. So what this is doing, it's telling us, preparing us to do our highlight. Because as I put the highlight on, I'm not gonna, go right to the edge and in. I will shrink it even more. My brush strokes will be not as much. So it's starting to look very different. It's all about layering. This one looks even a little bit more white than my other mix. That's okay. Because that's where we're going anyways after. Do I have enough to start this one? Yeah. Very lightly. And they don't have to be all the same, like have the same shadow or difference of color on each tree. They're unique. Each tree is unique. So don't try to match your trees all the same. So that's why we're doing different strokes, different places. The tree kind of tells you when you put your stroke on what it needs. I see it from here what the tree needs, and you will see it on your trees also, that what it needs, especially when we're starting to skip some areas here. Okay, I'm gonna reload a little bit for this tree here. I like this scruffy brush to do this kind of detail. Sometimes you don't want a scruffy brush, but this is perfect because it's stopping me from being too perfect, and it's giving me all these little strokes here, brush strokes. I can see sometimes a brush stroke. So see, it came very light. So we're getting lighter and lighter as we go. So I'm going to dry. When I dry with my heat at medium, because if it's too hot, wait a little bit, because you don't want your paint to kind of cook on your canvas when you try to do another coat. So now I'm going even lighter. Still not going to be pure white. It's still going to be a grayish green, but much lighter. I know there's a lot of paint in here. I'm going to unload a little bit. So, yeah, a lot of paint in here. Okay, so I'm just going to see where I'm going with this. It's hard to control up on top because my brush is a big brush. I'm scooping a little bit, not pressing too hard. My strokes are, at some areas my strokes are little, in other areas they're a bit more. And I'm hiding again that spot in between there, that line. When I see there's a spot that's too dark, then I will go in there. We might not even have to do any shadow. Or the shadow might not be right on the edge of the tree, because those trees, sometimes the shadow is right in the middle. Highlight is in the middle, on, you know, or on one side. Okay, again, let's not go too wide. Unless, you know, unless there's it's too dark, then we'll go. Okay, I've just reloaded. Reload as you need it. You'll see if it starts to not float, you're gonna see. You're gonna feel it in your brush. See, this here there's a lot of green there, almost like our first highlight that we did. So I'm just gonna go in a little bit to grab that, hide it a bit. So see, what I'm doing is I'm kind of hiding those lines here in between. And they don't have to be completely hidden. I'm kind of now just playing with what I have. You won't have the same thing as me, so your strokes won't be at the same spot. But the idea is just to not hide everything, but hide those lines. It's just giving me, I'm going to go on the edge a little bit here. Just going in again, just blending. You see it's kind of a grayish white still. So I know I've just reloaded, so I'm just gonna even go lighter. on my brush stroke because I've just reloaded. Okay, I'm going to reload again. So I find this edge a bit too dark. I'm reloading. If you're not confident in mixing as you go, make yourself a batch of this color, and that way you won't have to reload. Me, I'm used to this, so I reload, and it's a tree. To me, it's how I do it. Okay, not enough at the bottom. I'm just looking at it, and I like it. We're getting there. Just reloading with my weight. Okay. Ooh, there's a lot on this brush. So I'm just going to be careful here because I have a lot of paint. Just little strokes. Yeah, this one. Yeah, that one was lighter. I'm gonna go a bit lighter on that tree. Because when I did my mix was lighter than the other trees. Here we go. Hide some of the strokes I did before. You're gonna see now I'll finish the other tree, and you're gonna see that I'm gonna start my next stroke will be here and there into the white, a lot more white. So now the tree's starting to give us a dimension. Okay, I'm gonna dry. Okay, so now I'm adding more white into my mix. So I'm getting lighter again. And the final highlight will be pure white. Okay, so now I don't want to hide everything, so I'm just going to go in a little tad and barely touching in some areas. Some areas I'm going to the edge. Yeah, that looks great. I don't know if you can see what I see, but okay. Some area I'm just touching a little bit, not going right to the edge. Some I am. I'm looking at what the tree is showing me, the spots. Because those trees, the light hits it in different areas. I think I went off the bark here, the tree. Okay, this one the same. I'm not Well, maybe I have to reload now because of all the hairs. The other day I had to cut off some of the hairs. They were too long and they were going out and they were making a mess, so I cut it off a little bit. So I'm just gonna go like that here. Not at the same spot. Kind of hard to see because the way I'm angling my brush. Here I'm no longer scooping. Well, a tad maybe. Very minor. And it's all the layers that we've done that is giving a 3D dimension to our tree. And I'm just mixing more white because I need it for it. I'm getting into the bigger trees. And I'm not going very slow. I do want to touch my, okay. I'm gonna start seeing the tree come alive. Okay, I'm gonna mix some more paint. Add a tiny bit of my green in there to make more. And I'm just a bit more. I did a big painting of an eagle on an aspen tree, and I could not find the exact match of the aspen. I usually don't mix my colors very much, but I had to with this, and I kind of like it because as I go, I'm learning to do mixing. So again, not here. It went like a little bit, ooh, because I'm not gonna touch it. Because sometimes you touch it and it does a worse blob, or sometimes it's okay. So I decided not to. So I'm gonna reload. We're almost done with our big trees. Okay, barely. I know what I'm doing. I'm just touching too hard. So very light pressure. And I'm hiding where the previous color begins in the middle here. See, here you can see it ends there. This one starts here, so that's what I'm gonna hide. So this painting might be hopefully not overwhelming because I'm teaching it to you step by step. I just want you to learn the different techniques and make something look maybe a little more real than we're used, and how to look at a photograph and dissect it so that you can paint it. So next time you're in the bush, you're gonna look at the forest, and you'll be able to say, oh, that's the background. Oh, look at that. And you're gonna be able to see all of that because you're learning it in the painting. Here I'm gonna go a little bit more white because it's already almost got the same as the others. I could actually almost skip it. So see, I'll just, it's gonna give us a preview of what the others are gonna look like. I'm hiding strokes even though it was lighter. Okay, this one here, I'm right on the edge of my canvas, so, oh good, I can do it. I can do it, all right. I don't want that there because my tree's not gonna look sharp. So if you make a little off like that, correct it so it doesn't look off, that our tree looks sharp. Okay, so I'm gonna dry again. Okay, so I decided to stop here for now because look at my photo. Look at all the different I've added some shadow in some places, and then the white. I added the white after I added the knots here and there, just so that my tree popped. So now I'm going to do a little bit of details on the back trees here using a different brush. And then we're going to start going to put our branches. So I'm going to get my little brush. It's like a very tiny, I think it's like a 0 brush, and I'm gonna go into our mix because I don't want to add too much details, right? So I don't have to, in the water, I don't want as many layers. And I'm going to put my brush kind of sideways and just glide it. So it's going to put spots. Be careful not to go over. That way I'm not being, too precise. Don't want to be too precise. I'm reloading. That's a bit, I find that a little bit too much for now. And I'm just, same thing, a bit of water. And I'm laying my brush down. Touching where I find it's too much. Okay. Actually, I think I'm gonna change brush because I find that one. I might take a little flat. I'm gonna try with a little flat, a little scruffy black. My brushes get scruffy. Well, they're old brushes, first of all, but your brushes get scruffy because sometimes we're just rubbing like that. That destroys a brush. Okay, so I'm laying it down. And I'm just moving up. Try not to go off of the tree. Very hard because my brushes are too big. Okay, maybe scoop a little bit here. Yeah, that's better, guys, to scoop. Gonna give you less problem than trying to have your brush, a little brush laying down like I was doing. Sometimes you paint, and as you paint, you figure, oh my God, that's not working. So let's change things. You're allowed. It's your painting. You're allowed to do whatever you want. Here, just not very much. You know, it can be lighter. I want it to show a bit. It doesn't have as many, it doesn't have barely any layers in it. Make sure you go right to the top. See, it kind of, see the difference? It's still in the background, but it doesn't have as much colors in it as this, which is why it still shows as being in the background. So that's what we're gonna do, and very lightly pressing, just so that we do have something in it. It does show like it's an aspen, a tree, really, because you don't know it's an aspen when it's far like that. You just see a tree, a stick, kind of, a skinny stick. Okay, so here is the same. I don't want these to be, I don't want them to stay too dark in these. So just that we show it's a forest of trees. Yeah, I like that. Now this one here can be a little bit more detailed. Because it's a little bit in front of the back ones. Gonna reload. And on these here that I'm working on, some will have white also, because where the sun is hitting it, it'll have some white. I pressed too hard here. There's a tree there, so it's gonna still be okay. I'm gonna do that little tree here, barely touching, because it's not as in front. So see, I'm not touching very much, just a little bit. I'm scooping as I'm going up there. It's getting skinnier. Okay, now one left. This one here. Can you see that it's how my forest is coming? What the difference is from the back trees to the middle trees to the front trees. And we're gonna see that even more as we put the highlights on and the details. The details are gonna really make a difference. This one too, I'll put a little white. I'll need to reload. Not very much, just touching it a little bit. Just so that we see it's... Okay. Okay, so now I think we're gonna start doing... We're gonna go to pure white. I still have the same brush, the same little brush. And I can't really see very well the way I'm positioned. Get into the way. And I'm gonna just, this one here, I might just do a little here and there. See, I'm just, and even I'm going like on the corner. And sometimes I'm not, I'm just, so my trees are starting, so I'm gonna, do I switch? Do I switch? Maybe when I get to my big trees, I'm gonna switch. Okay, so this one is in front. So this one's gonna have even more highlights than that tree. And also, it's gonna be in, like I say, the spots. You see how I'm just going here and there, and I'm on the chisel edge, which means I'm like that, not on the flat. I'm on the chisel, and I'm on the corner. And I'm going sideways. I'm not scooping. And I'm kind of following what the tree has come into, the shape that it's come into. You know, once we put our marks, we're gonna see what else needs to be highlighted. Sometimes you need more highlights. Yeah, I like that. Maybe here. You know, hide that a bit more maybe. Take some more white. When I dry, I'm gonna go back and look further away and see what it needs. Even though this is kind of in the middle ground, it still has a highlight. It's when we put the dots and all that on, even on the little trees, we're gonna put some, well, maybe not those, we'll see. If we do, they're gonna be like gray. They won't be black, because if I put them black, I'm gonna bring the trees up front. And that's not what we wanna do. We wanna the trees that are in the back stay in the back. Okay, I'm reloading some white and just going with the corner. Even you can do this here, like that, if you want. But when I do that, I can't see what I've already done. And this here, I'm just gonna go like that. I was gonna say I had a tree there. It's not a tree, it's this tree here that I didn't go right to the edge. Okay. You know what? You might have to put less white depending on the mix that you had before. You might not have had the same mix as I did. So maybe when I stop, maybe you guys are gonna have to keep going because we didn't have the same mix. Just don't lose what's under your tree already. You know, don't lose all the different colors when you put your white. It's easy to go overboard. Look at your reference photo if you have to. And I'll take that out in a minute. And actually, I didn't even do it exactly like the photo. At the bottom here, we're gonna have the bushes anyways, hiding our reference photo. If you can see, it has highlights are there. Some trees barely have any highlights, some have more. So I'm kind of choosing, and then we're going to go put all our little black lines on it and our knots and that, and it's going to change the tree again. No, I'm not trying to replicate the photo. I know what I need to do with my tree. You know, I wanted just to show me where the highlights are, and I'm not even following where the highlights are, because that's not, I'm following what my tree needs, what I've done. I'm gonna start going a little bit faster so I'm not so specific. And then, if I need to add more white, like I say, our knots are gonna kind of tell us. We're gonna see when we put the knots what else needs to be done. So just keep going to the bottom. And if ever you went overboard, go back into your grayish mixture and just re-add some. Just where you think you went overboard, just go and re-add it. Okay, so at the bottom here, just gonna go like that. Okay, so now our other tree. Okay. This one I'm gonna try to be less specific. See, I'm working a little bit faster, so I'm not so specific because now I'm used to doing it. So like I said, the light doesn't hit your tree at the same spot because it almost seems like, the tree is rounded, but it's not rounded even. It kind of feels like, there might be bumps on your tree, that parts of some areas that are higher on the tree, more out, and that's where the light's gonna hit more than the other. Okay, here we go here. I find it's easier to do the little trees because I'm more, it's because of my brush. I have a small brush. I could probably be better using my scruffy to do this. I'm gonna take my scruffy out of the water and use it for, well, now I'm kind of at the point where we're gonna put the black knots and that. Okay, I'm babbling, sorry. Kind of, it's as if I'm talking to myself. So just, I really like the effect that it's doing. So I'm just keep going. So I think next we're gonna go do some. We're gonna go. I'm kind of changing my mind as I go. What I need to do next. even if I did the other painting to kind of guide me, the trees are different. You know, I didn't paint them exactly the same way, using the same mix. So it's almost like a brand new painting that I'm doing, even though I did the painting of the tree. So I'm going with, I'm gonna dry. Well, I will be back with the next step. So now what I'm gonna do is, you see this photo, it kind of has a little white edge on the trees. Well, that's what we're gonna go do. So I'm gonna take my little tiny little brush, and I'm not gonna press very hard. And I'm not trying to, you know, hit the whole side of the tree. And it's just giving our tree kind of where another dimension, I find. Okay, I need more water, make kind of a puddle of water. So you see, I'm not pressing very hard. Coming back, reload as I need it. So it kind of tells me, gives me a shape to my tree. That made such a big difference. So I'm gonna more water. Gonna go do this, and I'm gonna go a bit. There's a lot of. I have a lot of paint here. So it's kind of created my shadow, like defined where the shadow is. Okay, I'm gonna leave that there, that blob, that I think it still looks okay. I'm kind of going into a white, my white with in the spot where I had the gray. So it's not pure white. It might look like it is, but it's not. Okay, so yeah, gonna go a bit faster. I think it's going better. And my brush is on the side. You see, I'm not right on my tree, not because of the video, but because it's creating all these little spots. That's what I want. You know, I don't want a straight line. It's defining my tree. And as I go down, defining my tree, giving it a little bit of highlight. You know, guys, my video it might start a third video by itself, because it does that. I have no control because I'm using my cell phone. So we might start a third video. I'm going to keep an eye on it and see. That makes such a big difference. Oh, see, I'm not laying down my brush as much, so let me do that again. Maybe pressing too hard. I have lots of paint in my brush, actually. Okay. So not too hard. So we're just defining our tree. I'll take more paint. And on the outside here, take that black edge off. Now what it's also doing, it's putting this in the background. It's making our tree stand up instead of laying down. That's what it's doing. A little bit here. I know I have lots of paint. I just reloaded. Gonna try to lay it down more. My first trees were not like this at all. When I started painting way back, you know, we would do a tree, we would kind of do, that's a bit too much, I find. We would do a tree, we would do our main color, and then we would do shadow here, highlight here. That's how I started doing trees. But then you start to look at nature, and that's not always the way that a tree is done. If you look at pine trees, it's the same thing as these trees. The highlight doesn't always hit in the same spot, because especially the pine trees and those kind of trees, the bark is all cracked, and so it has the light will hit it in different spots. So again, it's like white and gray. This is like a longer process, but it makes such a big difference in our trees. And then when we go and put, you know, these like that, I'm a step ahead of myself right now, but that will make the difference. So for sure there will be a part 3 in this video, because there's so much details yet to put on. So you just keep going, do all of your front trees like that, and I'll see if we need to do some of these trees like that. Maybe not. We don't want them to look too in front, but they're not too in the back either. Especially like these here. I'm not touching them right now because I'm not sure. See, it had a big blob there. I'm not holding my brush laying down enough when it does that. Okay, I need to reload. Until I'm way down. Go way to the bottom of your tree, because you don't want it to look like it's down here, it's floating. Okay, so this tree is like that. Yes, it will have that line. Okay, I'm gonna try to stay. And this, I'm just gonna scoop it. Even though it's up there, it's still part of your tree. It still needs to be defined. Going on the edge where it's dark, like that. So you see I'm turning my brush sometimes because there's more paint on one side than the other. Okay, I'm gonna reload. Not really, I'm trying just maybe not load my brush as much. I think my video cuts off at an hour, 20 minutes or something. That's what it did on my first video. And that's because of the capacity of my cell. Okay. I might have a hard time here because I can't put my hand there. So this tree might be very different as I'm getting on the edge. You know what? I'm gonna flip. Oh, no, I can't flip. Has to stay like that. Sorry. Okay, I'm gonna reload again. See, my trees are not the same, and that's the beauty of it. Because when we used to do highlight on one side, shadow on the other side, well, all your trees were the same. And this way they're not. Because I'm using the same technique, but as I go, you know, it's not the same. Okay, the last tree. That will be very hard for me. Oh, maybe not. I'm shaking more, so maybe it's even better. Yeah, put my hand there. And actually, it's kind of like that. Okay. Sometimes I'm touching, sometimes my stroke is little. So here we go. And I will look and see if we need to do these. I think they will need just maybe a little bit of highlight like that instead of, you know, doing the whole tree. And don't do like I just did. Okay. Yeah, I think these I will just do highlights when it's time. And on this side, I will also go do a line, which we will do in part 3. So this is for part 2. So I'll see you in part 3.